to our inaugural episode of the School Matters podcast. As with anything communications, we are diversifying our platforms to reach everybody in our community so that they're able to learn more and know what's happening in VISD. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm Ashley Alvarez, Executive Director of Communications. You obviously know who I am. We work closely together, and I work to push out everything VISD to our stakeholders. And we are so happy in our first episode to have Superintendent Sheila Collazo. So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Are you excited to be our first guest on the School Matters podcast?
Absolutely.
I'm excited too.
Yes.
Feel very special about this. So the School Matters podcast obviously is another platform for us to reach stakeholders across our community to share what's happening in the district, on our campuses, opportunities that are available for students and staff. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about student outcomes, community partnerships, student citizenship, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want to know, you've been here for 60 days. How have your first 60 days been?
The first 60 days have been exhilarating. Oftentimes we talk about the superintendent role and the opportunity to listen and learn. And while that's true, I've spent a lot of time connecting with stakeholders, business partners, students, staff, and doing exactly that. I'm going to ratchet up a notch and just say also that the priority for me is about connecting and collecting data. So while I'm listening and learning, I'm also really connecting with people because we are in the people business, and this work is about supporting stakeholders at all levels, and it's people first.
I can tell you that our community is glad to hear that. They were first introduced to you by a joint superintendent and student-led video where they learned some interesting facts about you and your goals coming from the district. To this day, it has been 2 months since we put that video out, but to this day, people still comment about that video. So what was your experience with students and them asking you these questions and your first welcome and introduction to our community?
I think it's important that we always keep students at the center of everything we do. And so it was nice to see that students were asking the interview questions, and I was able to respond in that way. And it was my first way to really, really connect with students and really send the message that we will be student-centered in Victoria ISD. It is the heartbeat of our work, and it's why we exist.
Right. We're going to transition now into the nitty-gritty of the district, but first I want to ask you an icebreaker question. I was in a meeting with you that you were having with principals, and you asked them to select a song that defined their week. So I want to ask you, what song would capture your first 60 days in VISD?
I'm going to say We're All in This Together, which comes from the High School Musical.
Oh, fun.
And I'm taking a different twist on that because for two reasons. One, it is about us being all in this together. And two, it also communicates that we are about students, and the High School Musical does exactly that. So if you haven't seen it, make sure that you have an opportunity to do that again.
I feel like as a millennial close to Gen Z, most people watching this will know High School Musical.
Hopefully.
Yes. All right. We're going to get into it. We are a public school district. We are in the business of educating students. And our district and campus ratings are a hot topic. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about it. What is your plan of action here in VISD for successful student outcomes?
We spent a lot of time looking at the data, spent a lot of time with our district leadership and campus leadership teams really identifying what is happening both at the district level and the campus level. In coming into the district, I came in with a proposed academic playbook and presented that first at the district level and then at the campus level with principals to say, what I know to be true is that each of these 8 components is critical to changing student outcomes. And the more we got into it, the more buy-in we received. And what I have seen since then is administrators at all levels really digging in to each component of the playbook and beginning to pivot and shift the work to align with those expectations. And so a couple of them that we know, and I won't go through all of the components because we'll share those later as we roll things out, but just very strong academic leadership teams at the campus level, meaning campus principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, et cetera, really, really looking and understanding the data and then getting into classrooms to find out what's happening in classrooms and how does the data substantiate what's happening or not. Data is another one, is really looking at data through a critical lens, knowing the kind of data sets that we're looking at, and then using the data to drive instruction. And I could take us through the whole playbook, and every single one of those components is critical to the overall change process with student outcomes. So that's one big one. Mm-hmm. And there are some other big initiatives that we're looking at.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about strategies and programs.
Well, there's a couple of things we might think about. And I've started to talk about this, which is this whole notion of a K-12 literacy framework and a K-12 numeracy framework, because we know that both literacy and numeracy, the reading, writing, and the math, are critical components of every other discipline that we engage in. Mm-hmm. And so building strong readers and writers and building strong problem solvers and mathematicians and overall thinking critically are big pieces of this work. And so the public, our teams, will hear a lot more about what we're doing to pull that work together.
Okay. So a lot of campus and district administration boots on the ground work, helping build up the capacity inside the classroom.
Absolutely. And we know that we have strong teachers in Victoria ISD. We know that. Mm-hmm. And we also have some newer teachers to the profession. And so our goal is to ensure that every single classroom has a highly effective teacher mm-hmm. in front of students. And we talk about certifications, and certifications is one aspect of it. What we want to make sure is that teachers are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and the disposition, because mm-hmm. that's a little bit different when they're in front of classrooms, to really connect with kids and in terms of building relationships, but also connect with kids in terms of engaging them in real, rigorous content that is applicable across disciplines and in the real world.
Right. And so I want to just kind of plug in our VISD Insider Academy. This was talked about at the session that happened yesterday, where, teachers are given the blocks to mm-hmm. build their lessons and everything, but it's the artwork of teaching and being able to connect and being able to put all those blocks together for student success.
That's right. And just because lesson frameworks and lesson plans are developed doesn't necessarily mean that every teacher mm-hmm. is going to be able to pick those up and run with them when they're in front of kids. Right. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we have professional learning communities in place where teachers have the opportunity to engage in critical discourse mm-hmm. with other teachers to identify the standards. What is it that students are supposed to know and be able to do? And then begin to unpack that and unpack the lesson, and in some cases, practice the lesson right. before going live with students so that teachers are getting feedback. And so this work, as you hear, is very intricate. Mm-hmm. And It does require that administrators and instructional coaches be at the forefront in helping grow, develop, and lead teachers in a way that is meaningful and helps them connect and helps them get real-time feedback
Right.
consistently.
Yeah. Finding your and has been a saying in our district for many years. And what that means, is students graduate with an and. So they have their diploma and a job and college acceptance and joining the military. Talk to me about how our community partnerships fold into not only the school district, but the school district helping students find their and.
So I want to first extend kudos and celebration, because what we have seen with the data is that VISD CCMR ratings have increased significantly in the last 2 years. And I'm assuming that that's by design and not by default. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of tracking to make that happen. And so we have students walking away with some sort of industry-based certification, or they're on the college path where they have TSI A2, SAT, ACT, one of those components. We're doing very well on the industry-based certification side, and we have strong programs of study, clear pathways, partners that we're working with, Victoria College and others, and that one will continue to build on. It's doing well. The college side is one that we want to focus on, and I've spent time with Victoria College leaders looking at our data, and we need to increase the number of students that are receiving dual credits, and we need to increase the number of students that are actually graduating and going to college afterwards. And sometimes it's simply that students don't know the opportunities that are available to them, and we've heard sometimes, well, I don't have the funds to do that. And so it's our responsibility to educate students and make sure that they have a clear understanding of every opportunity and every potential for them to continue on to college after high school.
And so we talk about VC, UHV, citizens. These are community partners that help us implement programs for students to get certifications, have work-based learning. Why are community partnerships so important to a public school district, and specifically to VISD?
Well, the post-secondary transition is critical, and we have to have established partners in order to know how those pipelines will work. And so MOUs, our agreements that we have with each one of those partners, those are critical. And even this week, we were sitting at the table talking about how to expand, for example, our PTech. How do we continue to expand opportunities for students so that they walk away with a level 1, a level 2 certificate, and ideally at least an associate's degree? And so while we have many components and pieces in place, our work is still there to expand and build upon so that we streamline the opportunities and really communicate with students and families those opportunities and what's available for them.
Okay. So we've talked about student outcomes. We've talked a little bit about partnerships and how those help the district, which helps students. Let's shift a little bit to student citizenship. So I'm going to go back to our VISD Insider Academy. Yeah. We have an amazing second cohort of community members, some parents, some staff, some community stakeholders that are a part of this group, and they were teased the 10 VISD values. Do you want to tease a little bit with our podcast viewers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what I'll say is we've had a lot of conversations. The community has had conversations about this whole notion of discipline. And while discipline is one component of it, I think of it in the broader sense. How do we prepare our students to be the ideal citizens? And so it's really about citizenship for me. We have a lot of programs and services that we offer here in the district through counselors, through our specialists, even, through teachers in general. And I really think we need to think about how consistent we are in the messaging. And so we have developed our 10 VISD values. And these values, and I'll give you some examples of what some of them are: excellence, integrity, respect, honesty, civic duty, and there's several others on there. So I'm giving you the teaser, as you said. But what we're doing is anchoring our work with citizenship with these 10 VISD values, and district-wide, whether you're a pre-K student or whether you're a 12th grader and a senior, everyone will understand that in VISD, there's an expectation that we build ourselves and that we discipline ourselves around these 10 values. And they define how we think and how we act, both in district and out of district. And so, again, I continue to say that we're going to roll this out as an initiative, and it's bigger. It's bigger. So the 10 VISD values are a component of this bigger initiative. It also takes families working side by side with us and reinforcing these 10 values at home so that there's consistency between home and school. And we're always working together to do that.
And we know as parents, adults, educators, children will live up to the expectations that you set for them.
100%.
So we know that with these 10 VISD values, we are helping our students
Succeed here and succeed when they leave VISD.
Right.
Yes.
Well, this has been a great first episode. I feel like we covered a lot of ground: student outcomes, community partnerships, citizenship for our students, not only in school, but outside of school. For anybody listening or watching, we're going to wrap up this episode. What is one thing you want them to walk away with?
I think what we've heard loud and clear is that there is a need for us to change the trajectory in several areas. And some of the ones that we talked about today, change is a process, not an event. And so coming in mid-year, we've already started to pivot and make some changes that we need to. The ultimate goal is to identify the kinds of changes that need to happen by the end of this year, by the end of next year. And then we're looking at our North Star goal, and that is by the year 2028, that we are an exemplary A-rated school district. And that feels like it's far away. People need to understand that change is a process. Right. We're going to make some immediate changes, and we are already doing that. It's also about understanding that with a system this large, it takes a little bit to turn it.
Right.
And so it's exciting.
Well, I'm excited, and I know that year sounds very far off, but these school years are going quicker and quicker every year, so it will be here before we know it.
That's for sure. I'll give you one more teaser.
Yeah?
Excellence begins with me.
It does. Well, I think we're cut. Jacob, we're going to cut. Thank you for being our first guest on the first ever VISD School Matters podcast. We look forward to continuing the conversation about what matters most, our students. We encourage listeners to share the podcast with their friends and family. We are available on Spotify and YouTube, and we invite the audience to submit questions or topics that they want to talk about on future episodes. You can email those to visdcommunications.net. And until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and stay in the know.